for the thing to happen. I'm wondering if it's streaming because I never know. It never tells me. I think it's streaming right now. Yay, because I think it was happening. Hi, welcome. It's Sunday and it's Saturday. I'm lying to you. This is the Art of Rock. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the Tongva people as being the traditional landowners of where I am. That's Hollywood, California. This is the Art of Rock. Every Saturday, we turn up here, on most Saturdays, and we g'day Adam. And we talk about overcoming writer's block and all sorts of stuff to do with stuff, making music. Every Saturday here, I want you to join us. We all want you to join us. It's on angelspit's Twitch. Like and subscribe. And angelspit's YouTube. Like and subscribe. I hate saying that. Like you have no fucking idea. This is made possible with angelspit's Patreon. There's the one I want you to fucking like and subscribe. $3 a month or free. And by the way, we're going into a new payment thing because Apple's fucking Patreon. Oh, it's such a pain in the dick. Well, there's 4 reasons why this stream is going to do any good. How many expletives have I used in the opening moments? How to Bottle a Star is the new Ice Planet 9000 album, aka bloody Dark Ambient project. It drops this week, Monday, actually. So all that stuff goes out. If you're a paid Patreon supporter, you're going to get a free copy. And if you support it in the Kickstarter and all that, you get a copy, obviously, too. And I'm doing a listening party for this later in May. And it's going to be awesome. Wednesday nights, we all hang out with G'day D. Vulture Culture on Vulture Culture's channel. Like and subscribe to that. I'm wearing the t-shirt. It's good fun. We're actually going to be talking about something the culture of Vulture brought up, and it's going to be fantastic. Non-stop music from the Bleeding Edges MTV TV. G'day, Alistair. Go like that stuff. And if you want to get involved, send them the video because they want your bloody video doing its stuff. Rezi, thank you for being a part of this.
You're welcome. Good morning. It's good to see you.
Always keep our bloody McBloody together. Okay. Here we go. And today we are being joined by, I need to start. I don't ever do this and I need to start. Okay. I got this. Hold on a minute. Available. All right. Alex is going to turn up. So this is Alex in Germany. He will no like be turning up. Brett has just dropped Sirens. Is that today? Or is that tomorrow? Tomorrow. That's tomorrow. We should talk about that. Ivan is here. That's tomorrow, Sunday the 26th.
Today.
It is today. Okay.
It is today.
Do me a favor. Email me the links.
I am doing that right now.
You are the man. That's Ivan. He's here. Adam Bomb is here. I've already put Rezi's in there. Ivan. Did I put Ivan's in there? I put Brett's. Oh, that's it. Did I get it right? I hope I got it right. All right. Bloody legend. Oh, why can't I see this? I hate this chat more than I can say. Hey, welcome. That's streaming. Everything is apparently working, and Carl is having a nervous breakdown. So, a few weeks ago, actually 10, 11 days ago, Vulture Culture did a really interesting video called Does Hardware Matter? And it was interesting because in it, my main takeaway was, yes, it definitely does matter because I'm a snob, hence the t-shirt. And also, it matters to me. It might not matter to others. And today's the exercise of today's. I want to hear other people's perspectives because I always love hearing other people's perspectives. Something that really came out of that video was the resonance that it's hard to fake analog resonance, although, no, it is hard to fake analog resonance. I want to get the ball rolling. And I want to first and foremost ask about your personal experience. So what's your personal experience been with hardware versus software? Brett, take me to your magic place.
So I started with the DX7 and a lot of software. That's what I could afford. So it matters, it matters to have a really good controller board for starters. I mean, you do need to, even if you go cheap, you need to mix it correctly. You're going to have a balance of hardware and software. that could be something, groove box style. Let's be real. There's a lot of different form factors in which, that, and I've played with a lot of them as well. But at the end of the day, there's some sort of interface that takes, what you're trying to do in your head to the musical environment, usually a DAW. In terms of synthesis, this is where it really starts to kind of it starts to really get to be more personal. I think instead of absolute must. I love my Kurzweils. I love what each of these instruments is capable of doing, and for me, it's like I understand when I want. It is my birthday. It For me, each of these synthesizers, I know them, and so I'm after a specific quality from each of them. And so in that regard, the hardware also matters as well. Now as I do things, it really kind of is a hybrid. I'll most recently, like this week. I've decided to fire up the K2000 versus the Casio, and so I've got a MIDI that I'm working on there, and it's because each of these tools, whether it be software or hardware, it's what they bring to the musical environment that really matters, I think.
That's really excellent. And you just said something really great, brilliant, and I'm really grateful. I just put this into I'm going to throw this to you in a minute, Rezi. First, I'm such a shit friend. You told me only a week ago that your birthday was today. I'm so sorry. So what we're going to do is, we're doing this. Fuck off, Rezi. I want to hear your beautiful voice. Turn on your damn mics. And we are going to sing to Brett. Happy birthday. Can everybody do this? And Brett, can you also put your the link to your bloody EP in the bloody chat? Chorus, everybody at home. Well, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Ivan, turn on your fucking microphone. 2, 3. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
to you. I can't hear you, Ivan. Sing louder. Happy
birthday
to you.
I'm going to sample this.
Raziel, keep singing. Hey, Ivan, fucking sing. If you like Brett, sing.
Dear Brettux.
Brettux.
Happy
That sounds dirty.
I'm not up to the 2 yet. I haven't got happy birthday to. Happy birthday, Ivan. Fucking sing.
I was.
You were not. I couldn't hear you. Happy birthday,
My fault.
Ivan.
You.
And Razzie gave up. Happy birthday, Brett. You're fucking champion. Fuck off. You couldn't hear yourself. This isn't We Are the World. And even if it was, you'd be Bob Dylan.
If you're wearing cans, you got to take one off your ear a little bit and cup your ear. That's a rule. Group sing.
Happy birthday, Brett. You're a fucking legend. And where's my damn? I want to see the link. Where's the link? Put it in the chat.
Yep, I'm doing that, man.
Okay, while you're doing that, we're going to throw this to the resonator. Oh, thanks, guys. You brighten up my Saturdays.
What the hell was it? What were we talking about before all that?
Oh, fucking
hardware versus software.
Thank you, Brett. Once again, the birthday boy fixes everything.
The specific thing I believe that you said was personal experience with analog synths, if I'm not mistaken,
or hardware,
or hardware synths. Okay. Infatuation with the transistor organ that I was getting piano lessons on as a young kid.
Did it have a smell?
I don't have that sense memory of this one, but
it's a serious question. By the way,
I dig where you're going with that, because some of them do. This one might predate that, but it was built-in speaker, volume knob. Don't know what make it was, but it was very buzzy and if you held down a couple of notes, you could get some saturation in there with the low end and the speaker turned up. And I always found that to be really engaging. And then the other thing that was kind of tying into that time would be the Moog, realistic Radio Shack Moog that they always had on display, the MG one, I think. Uh, and they had a little book with the knob settings to make robot sound and trumpet sound and cat sound and things like that. And you could turn the knobs and dials and make that sort of weird mythical, I would call it a fallacy, that synthesizers can replace all other instruments. And that's what they're there to, take over society and put everybody out of a job. And so the book of patches was very dedicated toward making it sound like other things. That was popular. And then in my studio, by the time like I had a little, place for the local kids to all jam, since I was super fucking lucky to have that, people would end up leaving the larger things in the room, which keyboards often were. And so the first like proper polysynth was a Rhodes Chroma Polaris. And I remember more about the membrane front panel feel shittiness than the actual sound of the synth. But I do remember the built-in demo, and I do remember the thin readiness of that particular synth and how much of a pain in the dick it was with the one actual parameter fader and then, push button select parameter things. But then, like around that time with JX 3P and the Korg Poly 61, the one with the other single knob and parameter selection, Curtis chips kind of topology. So those were the like sort of formative. I came up right when MIDI was getting added, and you could plug them into each other and do stuff kind of keyboards around then. That's probably the interesting and unique historical part. And each of those has a certain physicality in my memory, for sure, above and beyond the sound even.
Okay, thank you very much. Ivan, you don't have your hand up. By the way, so I just put Brett's new tracks in there. Do me a favor. Go and listen to them. And listen to it once a day. Please do this for the next week. You want to give Brett a birthday present, that's going to be the present. Listen to it. And this is going to help the song a lot. So what I want to do is, Ivan, I'm just going to throw you under the bus here. I want to hear what you have to say while I turn the speakers off and duck out and deal with Frank.
Yeah, I've been actually like really contemplating what that analogs, like traditionally what makes that analog sound work so well. And like the filter, like an analog filter definitely matters because it does some wacky analog stuff as it's moving. And then like the VCA is going to add harmonics because it's a analog circuit as well. And then you're still running that through, or in the olden days you were still running that through like an analog compressor, which was also adding harmonics. Like you're adding harmonics to the signal all the way down the path, and a VST doesn't have those. Like the compute to get that in there would just kind of crazy sauce.
Is
So
that strictly true? Do they really not emulate
probably,
saturation in every single synthesizer VST synthesizer that's available? I'm not going to hold you to it,
we're
but
gonna need to throw them on a oscilloscope to really find out for sure. And
yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah.
the VSTs very often don't match the physical hardware. Part of that is like
That's a fair assessment. Yes.
the VSTs can try to emulate the age of the circuitry. Um, because as the circuitry ages, its sound is gonna change. And it would be unfair to think that a programmer is going to just guess where somebody's machine is at because you just don't have that data. You can put the like aging knob onto the VST like so many other Roland project products have. Um, And then, if somebody's got, an original Jupiter 8 in their studio, they can run the signal out of that, run the signal out of the VST, and then just try to match those, perhaps. I doubt that you can, really nail it though. So now I am finding myself wondering if one of the lovely things to try would be to um, run the VST signal uh, out of the box through the expert sleepers in my Eurorack, and then run, filters and VCA, run through physical filters and physical VCAs there, and then ship that back. And what I'm trying to imagine what that would, would that do something useful enough to have made it worth the pain in the ass to get it done?
Thank you, Ivan. But I will throw this to you first. I will say, yes, definitely do that and send out a massive, 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 massive stacked up, pure, no filter, no nothing, maybe a bit of distortion wave. Run that through the stuff and it will cream your panties. Best of both worlds. Brett, I want to hear your thoughts and then I'm going to jump in after you.
Very good. Just wanted to kind of caveat on something there. Ivan was saying, with the harmonics and whatnot, I agree, where you're sitting there taking, the VST version of, a hardware platform, that you're definitely right. You're going to have that weird harmonic kind of thing that the VST may not emulate correctly. But I will tell you that I've also been able to get a lot of harmonics out of VSTs and using them incorrectly. Where within the DAW itself, take the VST as a sound source, dump that into a separate channel, apply effects there, control my reverbs and things like that. And these are manipulations that you can do with a VST that are much easier accomplished, but don't actually represent what hardware does. That to wire all those things in really requires having the physical devices. But you can get there for sure.
Okay, today's going to be a good one. And thank you for that. Because, not only can you create an amazing sound by taking a VSTI, running it through your modular, but you can take your modular and then run it through your VSTI. And there's shit that the VSTIs do, I don't want to admit this, that your synths, analogs, or whatevers can't do. Although maybe they can. Yet we're going to get to that one. Okay. So I'm going to reminisce. I'm sorry. Rezi, you brought up the smell, or we brought up the smell together. My earliest memory was my grandma's. She had a Lowry organ, which I've since found out is some classic thing, with an analog beatbox in it, which was it was a CR78, complete with the little clip knobs. It was a Roland fucking CR78. Of course, I didn't know this. It had the same beats. I remember the smell of that thing, that gently. The hair in Titi's house, my beautiful grandmother Titi. I was thinking, I think it was all Titi's fault. Why I'm doing this, I shouldn't say fault. Titi taught me how to love animals. Titi taught me. She had, and anyway, so this organ had a smell, and it was the most divine, warm, friendly smell. And I remember when I turned that thing up, because she used to play it loud. The walls would shake and you'd feel it in the floor and this huge boom. Those pedals, it was the smell. But Titi's house also had, besides it smelled like baking all the time, she had the Popcorn album. She had Switched on Bach. She had Moog Plays the Beatles. She had the War of the Worlds soundtrack. And the War of the Worlds soundtrack is core to industrial music. If you haven't got into the what was his name? Jeff Lynne? It wasn't Jeff Lynne, it was the other guy. Wayne, someone, I don't know, the 70s English version of War of the Worlds. It's pivotal to industrial music. And I used to go to Titi's place, grandma's place, and we'd listen to all this stuff. And I really think it put me on the path. Then my other grandma actually taught me how to play organ. She gave me one of her old organs because she hated it. And there was the smell. Different smell this time because it smelled like my other grandma's place. But it was a smell, and it also had that gentle burning smell of stuff. One thing about Australia is that in organs there are also spiders, and on one or two occasions there was an unwelcome guest. Anyway, so and then when I got my first Casio CZ 3000, um, my memory of that was the smell. It had this plastic new smell, and it was fantastic. And then the next synth I got was I'm kind of worried that I've lost my sense of smell. Like I used to have the keenest sense of smell. Was a SH101 from Brisbane, from Parlings in Brisbane, and it had the smell of this synth was Parlings downstairs because they sell pianos upstairs, but downstairs in the basement they had synthesizers, and that's where I first saw a DX1, ESQ1, and of course the Emax. And I remember looking at the Emax thinking it was the most beautiful thing I had seen in my life. And it was these huge buttons, and it was a work of art. It had a smell. And of course, I bought an SH101. You don't want to know how much I bought that SH101 for. Um, but it had a smell. And the smell was because there were industrial bins outside the air intake of their air conditioning. So it smelled like industrial waste, not bad industrial waste, just a gentle fragrance. And I remember it was the most magical fucking smell ever. And it came with the Roland leather-bound fucking strap. It had a smell. And then when I got an Emax rack a few years later, it smelled like Parlings. It had that industrial smell. So smell's been a really big part of my musical experience. Not that I have that connectivity. It's just like being there. And it's interesting that I wonder if my sense of smell has diminished because of reasons. Anyway, um, yeah, so I have always kept away from um I've always kept away from plugins because I am a snob. And I've got a room full of gear and I'm just a fucking snob. And I know that like there are stuff like Helion and whatever the fuck and they're amazing. And I hear people I really respect talking about what this software can do. And I've always gone, okay, well it's there, it exists. And I remember I was showing off the K2000 to a friend years ago and the crazy shit a K2000 could do. And then they came forward with their software version. And it was really interesting to the degree that software had got to at that stage. I always start a song with a software plugin piece of crap, and it's the worst sound I can possibly find because if it sounds good on that piece of crap, then it's going to sound good on anything. Um, I I prefer hardware for reasons that we're going to get to shortly, but yeah. So Ivan, do you want to talk more about your personal experience, or do you want to talk about sound comparison? The floor is
Let's
yours,
go with
excuse me.
personal experience. You were
Okay.
talking about,
And then if you want to merge that into sound comparison, let's do that.
yeah, you were talking about, uh, organs at your grandmother's. And I'm gonna I find this interesting because I also had a grandmother with organs. Um, she had a piano. They had a piano out on the farm, and it was a huge electronic. I mean, this was back in the 70s, and it was a very large electronic, like two-tier electronic organ that also had a built-in drum machine. And it would do all sorts of crazy. It even had a cassette tape like right there that you could record your own stuff on it and all sorts of presets. It looked like a freaking like console from a spaceship back then. And I vividly remember when it got turned on. Within a couple of minutes, the smell of cooking electronics was definitely like a part of what it was. And it
And
was,
the big fan.
yeah, and there was that buzz of the big fan in the back, which was easily drowned out by, the fact that when that thing got turned up, it got turned up. It was quite capable of making some noise. Um, the yeah, and at my other grandmother's house, I mean, it was just a big upright piano there, which would if I find interesting because at home it was silence was golden always. Um, but I do find myself wondering how many of us were affected by, grandparents, electronic organs at home when we were kids, because that thing made a noise that I would love to recover because it had such a distinct sound. Because it wasn't like super smooth. It was 70s. It was accomplishing things, but it was a little rough.
Yeah. Can I
And
just cut in
capable
before I'm sorry, go on. Before you
and
go
very
to the sound
capable.
comparison, I want to throw in one more thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's very interesting that in the 60s and 70s, having a piano or an organ was a part of a social etiquette thing where houses were expected to have organs or pianos because it was seen as a thing. Um, because you'd go to dinner and then you'd end up around the piano drinking port. Things haven't changed. Anyway, so and therefore the piano and organ uh economy was huge because they were making billions and billions and billions of organs because every house needed an organ. And if it was Schmick, it had a crap drum machine. Then Roland turned up, then licensing, then. And then that's one of the things that why synthesizers are where they are, because a lot of synthesizers built themselves from organ manufacturing companies or licensed their technology, aka ARP and Moog, to organ manufacturing companies. Blah, blah. Ivan, the floor is yours. Tell me all about sound comparison.
Yeah, no, I keep, going down the rabbit hole of trying to imagine ways to take the VST, make it sound more, natural. Um, and I find myself desperately needing to do some experiments, which might involve getting some more fiber cables back to the audio interface. Also, I do. I've been very seriously wondering, if during the final mastering phase in building a piece, how much of a difference would analog compressors make? Because an analog compressor is going to also add harmonic signals to to it, and turns out we can easily get fairly affordable analog compressors in a box, and then there's a Chinese one that isn't that good on its own apparently, but you can swap out the tubes with German-made tubes or Russian-made. I think they might be Russian, and it apparently really upgrades how good it is. I use that in finger quotes because I don't know what that means. Um, I'm really interested in trying to run the mastering through analog compression just to see how much of a difference that actually makes.
And this is amazing, and I thank you because that's also a part of this is that so hardware, software isn't just synthesizers, it's also it's the compression, it's all that jazz. Did you want to add anything to that, or do I throw it to the resonator?
I think time for Razzie.
Okay, thank
Ah,
you, Ivan. Razzie, blow my mind.
um, I don't believe 95, 96% of the I compared these two things, and one of them is an analog synth and the other one is a VST, and we're making some sort of substantive claim about that comparison. I don't pay a lot of attention to it either, so show me an example and tell me I'm completely wrong. But I do think that most of it is just purely people's vibes, purely, I heard this one this week, I heard that one that week, and man, they were just nothing alike, as opposed to maybe a rigorous, here's five knockoff VSTIs and one analog original hardware, like somebody we know actually does. And I think that can be instructive, but I don't think it's a terribly useful for day-to-day decision making comparison, because if you can justify getting the piece of vintage hardware, you already know it and you know what it does. And if you can't, there is the software. And what we're talking about is the sound comparisons here. And the argument is that those sound comparisons are immediately meaningful. But my main argument is that almost every single fucking analog style thing that you have played in the room and listened to on your system was a chip in a box. It was a computer anyway. It was a VST in a box wired up to knobs, and there was still a digital waveform component going through maybe some analog stages. These are not really meaningful comparisons for making any decisions. Sitting down and making some sounds with a VST that works one way and a hardware synthesizer that works another way, you're gonna get something out of them. And if you can't get something out of them, move on, get another one. Because if you're a fucking dedicated hobbyist or a pro or a fan of coaxing sounds out of, these units, whether they're on your desk or on your computer screen, you're going to get somewhere. You're going to do something fantastic, and you're going to do something that is inspirational to you and translates through to the other people. And I don't think the sound distinction is a quantitative or qualitative one either that we can make. I think they're general categories, and I think they're vibes. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I'm not going to tell you wrong at all. I want to thank you for that, and also have a look through the chats, because currently everybody is talking about their memories of old furniture, appliances in their grandma's place or grandparents' place that were beautiful pieces of furniture and had a smell. And this has got a lot to do with the conversation. Rezi, I think you said some very important things there. I'm throwing this to the Ivanator.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to compare because, my original analog equipment collection is a Corgem one and the Alita. And the Corgem one, is essentially a VST in a very old box at this point. The Alita, that is industrial Soviet, low tech awesomeness. And I couldn't imagine trying to really emulate that in software at this point because it might be too weird to do that with. And then after that, like I got the Eurorack stuff, which is about as analog gets, and then I've got the Behringer stuff parts that at least those are analog circuits. Um, but most of the time, like adding all of the really when it comes down to a price of switching your gear over to analog, probably doesn't matter as much as playing the notes in the right order. Playing the notes in the right order is probably the most important part.
Agreed. Thank you very much. And that's another very interesting point that we're going to get to. Brett, tell me about your thoughts about sound comparison between virtual and analog hardware. I mean, hardware and virtual.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of it really has to do with how you play the instrument. And, that is where hardware obviously has, maybe I shouldn't say obviously, because, that discounts all the rack stuff. But in a lot of cases, hardware comes with, a control surface that helps sculpt how you play the instrument, whereas VSTs don't necessarily come with that same control surface or come with even a comparable control surface. And I think it affects how you one sculpt the originating sounds. Are you actually banging on keys, or are you taking a step sequencer? Those things by themselves do a lot to affect it. And then of course you've got all the stuff you can do after you've got the sound in there.
Oh, okay. This is fascinating. I'm just being an idiot right now in the chats because that's what I do. While I'm being an idiot, I'm going to pretend that I'm saying something important about stuff, which is a whole bunch of bullshit. Um, in fact of the matter, I'm being an idiot. So this is very interesting because although I don't touch, bam, happy Anzac Day, Rob. Um, uh, oh, Resi, did you want to shoot your mouth off?
Yeah, I'll go in. I wanted to sort of follow and applaud Ivan's putting the notes in the right order comment, because it captures what I was sort of thinking. In part of what I was saying, and I think what he's saying, is that the takeaway isn't that you can totally emulate any analog synth with a computer model of a synth. People have, and it's very successful, extremely successful, but that's not the point. The point is the differences are not significant for making fucking great sounding music. The differences are academic, the differences are personal, the differences are preferences, the differences are interesting and fascinating and endless exploration. Why one sounds one way and one sounds the other way? What's the new DSP code that we can do to emulate that buzzy fucking fat saturated sound? Do we need more detuned oscillators? Like all those things, super good, because of the way it democratizes the sound and the way that it demystifies the objects that we can't afford or are vanishing. All of that is essential. But the bottom line to me, again, is that no matter which path you take at this point and for the past 10 or 15 years, you can get to that level of fucking awesome on either platform, whichever way you choose.
Totally agreed. As far as my sound comparisons go, I don't. I use a lot of VSTIs for production, so compressors and all that jazz is actually I just sold my last hardware compression, so it's all compressor. And of course, a week after I sold it, I went, "Fuck! I needed that fucking compressor." Just because it did something else. As far as synthesizers go, it's for me, it's not real. It has a lot to do with the sound comparison. Because to me, a real synthesizer sounds better because maybe it's my choice and my bias and a whole bunch of other stuff that we're going to be getting to as far as operational comparison and object significance and all that shit that we'll get to that is better because of the process. If they sound better, gee, I honestly don't know. Honestly, I don't. But I do know that I only got to that sound choice, that actual sound, because of hands-on. And if I have a VS, maybe that's my issue, is that with VSTIs, I fucking hate doing this with the mouse because I'm not getting a controller surface because I'm a fucking crybaby. That is my only thing to say. I'm sure they are as good, although the resonance probably isn't. But for my own personal choice, I will spend stupid quantities of money when that is available to me on an analog or a synth when I could be getting something similar for free. But I absolutely agree with Alex Vulture Culture's thing about how the resonance sounds different, and there is a sonic difference or something. Do we want to keep talking about sound comparison? Yes, Ivan, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for, the physical hardware having physical controls and things being where they need to be when they need to be there, and how having, a well-designed piece of hardware help you like sculpt and play the music like all the way like give you hands-on in a way that a VST can't even like by itself can't approach. I mean, I do have a Roland System 8, and I love that that synth, but I mean that is essentially a VST in a box, but it is very smartly wired up to its control surface. So when you switch from one you know VST to another, it lights up the controls that work for that. So, like the difference, you can look at the surface and you know the difference between your, Jupiter 8 and your Juno, because one of the oscillators doesn't light up. And, like that's actually really well thought out, really handy. And, like my hope is that now that MIDI 3 is becoming a thing, that we'll eventually be able to buy a MIDI 3 controller that interrogates the VST and says, "Hey, what controls do I need?" and then lights those up on its own. Because that would be a smart thing to have, and then have a controller that has enough stuff going on that you can handle 99% of what's going on, and it just lights up what you need to know for that that VST, and lets you just reach down and control it. That would be really, really nice. And like there've been attempts at that already. Some are decent, some are not so decent. The easier you can make that and the more global you can make that, the happier everyone is going to be across the board. Because being able to just load up the software and then have the hardware like react to what has been loaded, like that would be kind of a game changer.
Okay, thank you so much. If I can just very quickly, are we still talking about sound comparison or have we moved on to operational comparison? Operational
I
comparison.
was still on sound, but I mean,
Okay, that's fine. That's
close.
fine. Because I was listening to Ivan going, that's fine. Because a lot of these are going to be merging because there's a whole bunch of merge. That's fine. And Ivan, thank you. I was listening to what you were saying. Rezi, I want to know your thoughts.
I think this might be actually the same kind of sliding to a new angle that Ivan was on. But the idea that the whole comparison we're making is a category error and some sort of compositional fallacy that we're making, in that the meaningful comparison is this synth versus this VST for this job, and analog versus digital or VST versus hardware is just a podcast topic.
And this is a podcast, so it's okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, mate. Okay. But if you want to like jump in more on that, or that's okay, or do I throw it to the birthday boy?
Moving on.
Thank you, mate. Brett, happy 23rd birthday.
That's right. That's right. So, it was also sitting kind of in that middle and reflecting very much what Rezi just said there. I started thinking about Omnisphere as it compares to, say, the DX7 or the Kurzweil. And it's a very different beast, the way it combines sounds and whatnot together. I mean, yes, you can do those things on a Kurzweil. It's not like you can't, but the way it does it is very native to its core, and you get a different result out of that. And you get there pretty quickly. And so, one, operationally, they work differently, but two, I think part of the comparison here between hardware versus software tends to be against like items, like this VST clone versus this real hardware. And I think when you take it out of that and you treat each synthesizer, much to what Rezi was saying, as individual entities, especially when they're trying to be individual entities, then the lines there between how they actually sound, one being better than the other, is pretty much negated. What do you compare it against at that point? You have the original device. That was kind of my 2 cents.
Thank you. I want to step across to operational comparison and object significance. I want to merge these two topics together because they're going to bleed into each other. Yeah, thank you for that. I want to hear, what do you guys think about operational comparison, as in the way you actually use one to the other, and the significance of having this object in your studio and the workflow of it? I'd love to hear that. And also, thank you for the chats. They're very funny, and I'm really, really, really loving it. So please, Razi, what are your thoughts?
The first and most important to me so far difference, I think, obviously, is when you have a studio with a synthesizer in it sitting in your room, you have that one. And you can multi-track it. You can go back and do another thing. You can write the MIDI tracks and play them twice. You can do all this stuff. But you've got the one thing. So the iteration, as you change a sound, the stacking of tones, the utility of changing the sound in the middle of a phrase, things like that are tied in a different way to your creative flow than on the running inside your DAW version. And I think that's more the distinction than whether it's a computer algorithm or a hardware box. Again, in that if it's in your computer, you can instantiate a bunch of them. You can have 5 Junos, you can have 6 Mini Moogs, and play one note on each of them and have a whole, small ensemble of monosynths that you'll never have in your studio. And that being the functional, operational main difference, I think I'm going to leave it to other people to talk about how the knobs feel and what you can click and touch. But that's the one that should probably, for me, carry the most significance. Is you can have a bunch of them.
Thank you. And it's great to have like a very expensive, terrifying compressor across each track, knowing that it costs basically nothing, as opposed to, Thank you, Brett. Tell me about your brain.
So before Art of Rock exposed me to this wonderful can of Deoxit, there was a long time there where my DX7 was really just being used as a controller board for VSTs. The all the sliders made noise. Everything in it, needed a nice hit of Deoxit, and so really the playability where it comes down to if you can get MIDI into the system. That's what I learned from it, because the DX7 doesn't come with really any knobs. It's all push button, and so I can't do things other than maybe pitch bend and a slight mod wheel types of stuff in playing live against a VST. So I learned to do all that stuff after I got the initial note values in there. Give me my attack, give me my MIDI on, MIDI off, and get out of my way. And so for me, where Omnisphere brings the ability to integrate into the hardware of the PC4, the Kurzweil PC4, and use all those knobs. I find that I don't really have a trained sense of doing that live. So I'm not sitting here manipulating the sound using the controllers, even though I can. It very much VSTs for me, their fine manipulations have always existed within the box, and kind of like electronic drums. You hit the drum, you get the note. That's very much how I've treated them, in the past, even still today. I know I kind of rambled there.
Today is all about rambling, and you're allowed to ramble because you're the birthday boy. That used to, I used to fucking hate it when people call me that. Thanks, Brett. That was bloody awesome. Ivan, do you want to jump in? Because I know you've got a lot to say about this. So this is the operational comparison and the object significance.
Yeah, I may be a little bit self-spoiled on this. It's like I do an awful lot of work with the VSTs. Like they're my go-to because I don't have to like haul anything out. It's nice and easy. But at the same time, like the Hydrosynth is always there for me. And very often I will just use the Hydrosynth as a very fancy controller for the VSTs. And that it's got enough, knobs on sliders on it that if I just do a little pre-mapping, I get all of that in order and then really expressively play the VST, in person from the Hydrosynth, which I really like to do because, I'm able to play the VST then and get like kind of that human feel into what I'm doing way easier than I can by just like mapping all the actions directly in, like Ableton automation lanes. At the same time, there are times where I will definitely just use the Ableton automation lanes because I know I'm just going to be doing it this way. And so, like I'm very used to approaching each part and each problem as its own thing and answering each part and each problem's question with its own answer. So that I'm always trying to find the appropriate way to handle you know a, any piece as uniquely as I can for itself. I'm just going to use word salad to describe this whole thing at this point.
That's totally cool. Thank you. That's great. Razzie, what are your thoughts?
One of the other operational things, and it's a little twist, you figure that the 10 fingers on the controller, because it's got knobs, is the big one. And yeah, obvious benefit. You get either one mouse button and one click, or full control, and you can, put your arm down on the thing and roll a bunch of faders at once. Obviously, that's an advantage in most contexts. But if you also think about it as no undo, no save, we're talking old hardware here, no single purpose UI, you can't modify the way that the topology is laid out, the front panel is right where it is, and looking at those limitations as actual benefits to learning the instrument and becoming proficient at interacting with it, that flips the script a little bit and gives advantage on the hardware side to the limitations of the hardware rather than the advantages of the big fat sound.
Thank you so much. Brett, I want to hear your thoughts. Then I'm going on a rant.
I thought of another thing operationally that VSTs have both advantage and maybe disadvantage over our hardware sense, and that is, in the event of an emergency, you can grab your entire computer and bail, and that's one box, which is your entire studio. The downside to that is, if you're that heavy into software, that same one box is your Achilles heel. If it dies, now you got nothing. And having been there in both cases, I don't think that gets enough love. You can back up an entire studio of VSTs. You can't necessarily save all those same pieces of hardware in the event you need to bail out or something happens. So, yeah.
And thank you very much. Okay. Operational comparison and object significance. Here we go. This is going to get woo-woo. Just go with me. I believe in space, or in the spiritual realm, in a dimension or something, yeah, roll your eyeballs, there is a thing called the Moog bubble. And inside the Moog bubble, yeah, has gone the thought and the love and the care and the success and the failure of every time a Moog sings. There's also a sequential bubble, and there's also a fucking Oberheim bubble and all this shit too. But my thing about it is that when I sit in front of a Moog or a sequential or something, I am looking at the exact same thing that Stevie Wonder, Herbie Hancock, Bernie Worrell, Emerson, Thomas Dolby, Howard Jones, Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis has looked at. And as I touch that knob, and Gary Newman, John Fox, as I touch that knob, um, Kevin Key, Trent Reznor, as I touch that knob, I'm having the same experience they are having. And and that to me means something. It might not be something there, but it's doing something inside my brain, knowing that these greats have touched this thing, and it was fucking invented by a whole bunch of people who are brilliant. It's not just Bob Moog, but I've murderously forgotten the name of the engineers who actually made the mistake that makes the Moog sound so hot, or the amazing Collins who devised the UP 2500 Collins filters. And I think some of you guys know Mr. Collins' daughter. The Collins 1047 filter, I believe, is the greatest filter ever made. And it's a 12 dB everything. There is a place of magic, of spiritual magic. Like it's like saying if you sat down at the piano where Mozart wrote Mozart's music, can you honestly tell me that there's not some kind of magic imbued into that? And yes, these are electronic instruments, but these things are antennas. They are antennas to a higher form of ideas. And if you allow yourself to think that way, it may exist, it may not. But the thing is that you are opening yourself to a form of inspiration. We don't know where inspiration comes from. None of them know where inspiration comes from. I mean, like, there's a lot of argument about, cerebral cortex, blah, blah, blah. But so that's my first thing, is that there's a spirituality of the elders. And you are coming to the place of the elders. Secondly, when you're sitting in front of a Prophet 5, Jupiter 8, Mini Moog, Memory Moog, Moog 1, whatever, this thing demands your best fucking idea. And for me, that's a real catalyst as far as software versus hardware, is that for me, because it's cheap, it's kind of, and this is just me, because it's a software thing, I don't really give a fuck. I go, beep, 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 there you go. But when you're sitting down in front of something that you have invested a lot of fucking money into, the idea that you get, once again, this is just me, it better be fucking amazing. It needs to be absolutely amazing. And you're forced by obligation to present a good idea musically, the actual notes and the sound. It needs to be amazing because it demands your fucking respect. It's a Jupiter 8. It demands your respect. This thing is fucking Qui-Gon Jinn or Yoda. The next thing is that when I will create a song, and it's going to be all crappy blip blip software VSTIs, and they can be amazing, but I just don't develop it because that's me. And I've heard people, I'm not taking anything away from people who use VSTIs. For me, I purposely, as I mentioned, I have the worst sound imaginable, because if it sounds good on the worst sound imaginable, it's going to sound amazing on my dope fub modular. And that's another thing, is that okay. So I will design the sounds, not the door is off, and I'm sitting down going, oh, I've got some ideas about this. So I'm going to now use all this gear with the door off and a mixing desk, and I'm going to be playing and stumbling my way through it. So I've got the bass line and blah, blah, blah. Doing that is such a refreshing thing, because it's away from the door, and it's allowing me to think in a different way. It's like going to a different department, going, okay, well, we've got this idea, how we're going to expand on it. And the great thing, and yes, you can do this on a fucking VSTI, although I don't think you can a lot of the times, because there's just something like, for example, with a modular, you end up doing something and you have no fucking idea what you're doing. Sure, I'm sure that exists on a VSTI, but not for me. Like if you're sitting down on a synth, whatever, on a Moog One, and you're building the sound, and it can just get more and more and more ridiculously fucking enormous, and you end up with this thing that has just said, okay, this sound is enough. All that other shit you don't need to worry about. Or you're sitting down at your shitty old Emacs. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shitty old Emacs or K2000, and you got some samples in there. And I have used virtual samplers. I didn't like them because the process is so fast and easy. It's not this arduous pain in the ass. And the thing about the arduous pain in the ass is that there's so many mistakes, so many things that could, oh fuck, I wouldn't have thought about doing that. And you end up with this completely different take that, oh, well, if I get this sample and it plays it low and I pendulum loop it backwards and forwards, then I put a filter on it and blah, blah, blah. Or I accidentally hit the knob and instead of it being a 5-second sample, it's a 5-millisecond sample and it's this granular weird thing. Hey, that sounds kind of cool. Maybe it's just because of the way I work, but actual hardware brings it into the realm of mistakes. And in those mistakes, there are some fantastic Bob Ross happy fucking accidents. The amount of times that I have sat down on the Moog One and it's out of tune or something weird happens, it's like, oh, that's wild. What's going on? Oh, save. No, don't fix it. That's fucking fantastic. Yes, VSTs have oscillator drift, but you know, another thing I absolutely love about them is the smell. And it's the way that they make all these little funny things and they do funny fucking things. Like, you know, the way that as they warm up, the oscillators come in more or they move, or you work on it on Monday and you go back to it on Friday and everything sounds a little bit different. I love that. There are works of art in my studio. And I reckon it's one of the reasons Moog put fucking wood and sequential, they put wood on stuff. Because it does sound better, because you choose for it to sound better and you therefore work to make it sound better. You know, the conversations we've been having about how you know, your grandparents beautifully carved, ornate, hi-fi, that shit doesn't exist anymore. But in synthesizer land, it kind of does. Like, the guys that designed Bang & Olufsen designed the Moog One. Have you actually looked at a mini Moog? It is a beautiful thing. Like, look at the design of it. Look at the way that it's the same with the ARP 2600. This is such a beautifully simplified design. The Moog One, it's a fucking work of art. A Jupiter 8. A Jupiter 8 is a Jupiter 8 because it's the most beautiful fucking thing to look at. Look at a Prophet 5. I think the same guys that designed the layout of the Prophet 5, because they take that to a bunch of people and say, design it, also design the Moog One. I think I could be wrong. I think. Also the Memory Moog. It is a beautiful fucking piece of design. And when you sit down, wipe some of the dust off, sit down at this thing, it's like, breathe it in. Literally, breathe it in. You are sitting in front of a royalty. It's the difference between driving a fucking 74 Charger. I always go on about 74 Chargers, and a modern day fucking reissue Mustang from 2024. They're different fucking vehicles, mate. Or a 74 Mustang. And the thing I absolutely love about these bubbles of technology is that, so a mini Moog, it's 70s. Look at the fucking thing. It's 70s. It's this, it looks like a tin can with nice bits of wood on it. Then you look at a Moog One where they've gone back to and they've refined it, but it's still inspired by that late 70s, early 80s thing. And then you look at the Emacs. Go look at an Emacs now. Could somebody put a photo of an Emacs in the chat? Because it is the most beautiful fucking thing. It is Miami Vice. I love the Emacs. I have such a crazy love affair with the Emacs. When I was in Chicago, I painted the apartment, much to the disgust of Miss Ballistic, the colors of a fucking Emacs. Like, can I get an Emacs somewhere? And like, I've met people, like when you look at the actual boards of an Emacs, there are all these birds, emus, because it's, emu, electronic music. But there's pictures of emus with little emu fucking chicks and an emu with guns, like Rambo, but it says Rambird right next to where the ram is. I've got so many gears that I've got bits of fucking lyrics and shit on the circuit boards. It's fantastic. But when you look at that Emax with those huge fucking buttons and that crunching disk drive and it says Miami Vice. It says 1986. I just want to put on a suit and roll up the fucking things, and I want to be on a boat and I want to bust some crime in Miami. That maybe it's just me. I want to bust some cocaine dealers. Where? Can someone give me a fucking photo of the fucking Emax, please? I know Brett's on it. Yeah, on a fucking boat. And that's something I love about. And then you got the K2000, which is like, this is the 90s. Look at the colors. Look at that green. The whole thing says fucking 90s. And yeah, you can do that on a fucking VST. Blah, blah, blah. The other thing I love about about old gear is that you can buy something for something and then you can flip it years later. Thank you. But it's really shitty. I don't sell my gear. This is hopefully a photo of a Emax. Is that an Emax? Can we just take a minute? Look at that. Thank you, Brett. Look at that. Emax 1, not the Emax 2. The Emax 2 was also, you look at it and it's got similar design. Oh, it's the 90s now. We're cleaning everything up. As the K2000. What do you mean something went wrong? I hate your face. Nothing went wrong. Would you just fucking copy and paste that, you awful thing? It's beautiful. Look at that. So that's another thing I absolutely love about it. Floppy disks are amazing. They're amazing. And the thing about a floppy disk is you can actually, because there's only like so much, there's only 700 fucking K on this, not even a meg. You can actually write what's on it. It's not like 20 million gigs. I've actually got my Emax floppy for sale, and I've also got the K2000 for sale. And I realized, I know, I'm a trader. I realized, fuck, the K2000 is the only synth in the room that does this thing. So I have to take it off because there's all this Ice Planet 9000 stuff. The new album is relying on the K2000. Fuck, what was I thinking? And I've got all these dead. This is from the Angelspit track Advertised Lie, which is how old? Look, it doesn't work. It's broken. This has got the an actual sample, like the digital version of a Fairlight on it. The Fairlight Sa-Ra sound. And when you hear that on an 8-bit, 12-bit fucking sampler, it sounds like a fucking Fairlight. It's got this sample of somebody who closed a window, and it was the greatest thing I've ever heard. And it's got drums on it. Dude, having a Lindrum play on an Emax makes sense. SP12, SP1200, the drumulator stuff. You have to you can't play that on a fucking soft synth because it needs 12-bit crunch, which goes back to why also the Behringer's LM1 thing is really good, because they're actually they're using old mindset technology to make the thing happen. I wish these comments and links were saved on the stream, Carl. I think they are. On YouTube they are, I think. But anyway, that's Carl's rant. That's why I like them, because it takes longer. It's more fucking around. And, it's really interesting that, like, I don't know, that's just it. I'm just going to start repeating myself. Rezi, jump in.
I think that there's two clear things about what you're saying, and one of which I agree with, and one of which I think I've already said that I kind of disagree with. And the list of attributes that it needs, that this hardware needs to sound the way that it does, I think is solved in software. I think that some of the things that you're actually calling out are artifacts of the software. And as a matter of fact, like, needs that 8-bit crunch is literally because it's not an analog thing. And yes, you can, my idea here, can get the identical sound or the functionally identical sound of reduced bit depth from the same algorithm running on different hardware. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. Totally cool if you disagree, because that's what makes us unique and have different approaches. But my feeling is that you very much, most of those things can be not the differentiation between the hardware synth and software synth. I don't think that they functionally or aesthetically are. Operationally, yes, 100%. But why do we worry about this? And it's because these are tools and religious objects, to pith it up a little bit, to get to the point of what we're feeling here, why it's visceral. And the significance, Carl, you went on about this. I would like to shut up and let your words be the final authority about who played what synth, and that it's a historic object. But why, why do we have the as a species, I guess, or culturally, the idea that physical objects can be imbued with the magic and code can't, and that code's provenance being intangible on some level, and that we've evolved to track lineage through things, and we have things and stuff, and in the inimitable words that I won't try to imitate of George Carlin, there's a lot to be said about your things and stuff. But even in a virtual analog, we don't treasure the CPU, we treasure the box. We don't necessarily, most people treasure the individual lines of blocks of code that do things in the virtual analog. The virus access is the thing, or the Nord lead or whatever. That's the celebrated object. And I think, and this is the part that you, Carl, said very well, that the Juno has a serial number, a history, it has scratches, it has pots that are degrading, it has capacitors that are drying out. It is a singular object. And with code, and increasingly with virtual analog physical objects, there is no this one. There is no, this is my singular version of the thing. They're constitutionally non-singular and duplicatable.
Okay. I want to thank you, and I want to say that what you said is right. There's no right or wrong in this one. Here we go. So, one of my Jedi Masters named Steve Jones, aka Agent 13, who is he's like one of the guys heading up the massive, I think it's the biggest synth museum in the world, and it's in Melbourne. Steve Jones is fucking brilliant human being. Steve has a theory that it's through voltage, that life and spirit and everything else travels through voltage, through waves. And as soon as it becomes data, ones and zeros, the life gets sucked out of it. And this is from a guy, Steve Jones is the shit. He is fucking Yoda. Like, this is the guy that Bowie crossed the floor to shake his hand, because everyone knows Steve Jones. And it's not Sex Pistols Steve Jones, it's the repairman, high priest of fucking synths. And Steve's rant is, and I love it. And it's one of the reasons I feel this way. Like, don't start me on what that guy's got. And he's got this stuff because it represents something spiritual, that the essence of the songs of these Vangelis is in his CS80. I think he's got 2 of them now. I'm not sure. But it's the interesting thought is that, and that's why there's the AAA movement, which is analog, which from the impulses in your brain travels directly, magically, electronically to your finger, which hits the guitar string or the Moog. And that causes in a voltage vibration. It's like, the beads that knock each other, sends off a voltage vibration, goes down the voltage cable to the voltage tape that writes using magnetics, using a voltage wave, to the vinyl, to the stereo, to the ear. Every step of the way has been an analog experience. And And of course, if it's so easily to theorize that that's been broken, but it's fascinating that, yeah, and yet where does the boundaries between this stop? Because using the logic that I use, or that means the K2000 isn't, and the Emax isn't either, because there's a digital thing in there, the digital thing that stopped that. I don't know. It's a nice thought experiment for me. Um, there is also the reality of, if you go out and get one of these if you bought a Jupiter 8 in the 90s and you paid some horribly small amount of money for it, its value has increased 30-fold. Um, and the I that's great, but I don't really care about money, and I don't sell gear for that reason. Um, and but that's something people take into, response. Um, but I don't know. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on the whole magic of it, is that there's, for me at least, there's something in there. And I choose for it to be in there because at the end of the day, I just want the song. I want the song to be amazing. And I'll use whatever tool I will. And when you look at Jean-Michel Jarre, for example, Jarre is famous for, oh, I'll use this digital thing now. Oh, now I'm going to use software because it's what's there. And I do really respect that about him. Um, I don't, because I'm a snob. Scumshoes. Um, does anyone else want to jump in there? Because that's yeah, it's a rant. And the wonderful thing about all these rants is that it's based on a lot of how you feel, and how ultimately it's about the song, man. It really is. Um, Ivan, I see your hand.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said for all of that. And I partially we can learn our lessons from, people who, very much do this professionally. I mean, look at like the traveling rig for Nick Rhodes these days. It is stripped way down. I mean, I saw Duran Duran back in the late 80s, and they were transporting a mountain of equipment just for him. And these days, it's practically nothing because, the software is making up the weight difference between, you know, breaking his you know, load in and load out guys' backs versus, not doing that and essentially accomplishing the same thing. And, like, one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, how close is close enough? I mean, maybe it's not totally perfect, you know, maybe. Also, maybe you're really only going to tell the difference between perfect and not perfect if you're still listening to the music with 17-year-old ears. Um, which, now that I'm 25, I don't have. And like I just recently watched a YouTube video where they built up like a passive uh it wasn't an amp, it was just it was just passive transformers put in the master signal chain, and like apparently it was making a huge difference. And part of this is YouTube compressing the shit out of their audio signal anyways, and blah 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 blah. There are a lot of reasons, but I couldn't totally hear the difference. Like it wasn't enough for me to go, "Whoa, that was amazing." Um, but I'm fairly certain that in person it probably was a little bit better, and if you were listening to it with, your 17-year-old ears, it would probably be significantly more amazing. But, again, I'm stuck at 25 now, and my 25-year-old ears, stood in front of the speaker stack at the Too Dark Park show, and I I may have given some things up while I was standing there,
Happy
particularly
20.
my mid-range hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That was a great rant. Also, I'm going to throw this to Rezi, but I do want to thank everybody for also what's going on in the comments about it is really interesting about the immortality of code, and yet so much code's gone missing. Like so many amazing things are gone because code just evaporates. Thank you, Ivan. Rezi, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I wanted to just comment, Ivan, that when Nick Rhodes shows up with like an M audio controller instead of a whole bunch of classic Roland shit that he probably has access to and a crew to really maintain and bring on stage, it's a disappointment. Like, to me, I have seen that happen. I'm like, oh, Kraftwerk, but there's no wires. They have podiums. All right, it's a thing. I get it. It's not the same. And some of that, and this is what I argue, is that music being a meaning making practice, we are creating messages, and all of it is wrapped up in the visual presentation and the spiritual posture. And I think that pretending that the object, the talisman, doesn't matter is its own kind of fundamentalism. And I don't think it respects some of the lived experience that we actually have as fans and practitioners.
Thank you. Oh, this stuff I want to talk about here. Thank you very much. I know I agree. This is fantastic. Alex, welcome. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I didn't really catch the original question, but from what I've gathered, I wanted to say, for me, it isn't mostly about digital versus analog. It's more about expressiveness. Because sometimes some synthesizers just have more expressiveness in them than others. For example, if you just have like good velocity response and maybe an expression and modulation wheel, or like well thought out parameters, that makes a huge difference on how lively and how soulful a synthesizer is for me. So I think that's something that's like has to be brought to the table, because even the best sounding analog synth, if there's hardly anything I can do with it because the scaling is weird and so on, I'd rather have digital synth where it's better thought out than analog synth where it's not. But having said that, I love my analog synth.
Awesome.
Also, I think people underestimate how different VCAs and DCAs are, even though they're both analog.
There's a rant in there. And you should go on that rant in a minute if you want. Yeah, I will also agree that, sometimes it's because, of festival realities or whatever, that they're not taking lots of gear on stage. But I'll tell you, I think I remember back in the 80s when the keyboard player was surrounded by stacks and stacks and stacks of keyboards, and they're doing this with their fingers everywhere, going everywhere with their hands. And I remember I saw an ambient artist when I was like 16 or something, playing in a mall in the Gold Coast, 15. And I talked to him after, Ken Davis, I think his name was. And he was like one of the first guys making ambient music or whatever. And he had his synths everywhere, and it was great. And and I was asking him about his synths, as this kid. And he said, "Oh, well, I have all of them. I don't really need them all, but audiences want to see that." And that was something that really stuck with me, is that, you're absolutely right. When I saw Nick Rhodes, he had a Nick Rhodes in the Duranis. He had I've got a Duran story. Well, I'll bore you with it. He had a couple of he had a Jupiter 8. And everyone went, well, I went, oh fuck, that's fucking legit. It wasn't as much, there was no Fairlight there. But yeah, I remember when I saw Radiohead, they had this massive fucking modular analog systems, analog systems. And they used it. They really fucking used it. And I've been to places and I remember I walked into a gig once and the motherfucker had a Moog. It was actually a .com, but fuck. And there's something about when you walk onto the stage and the stage is this behemoth, it sets a psychological message. Look, it really fucking does. And yeah, I would have loved to have seen Kraftwerk when it was all set up like a fucking nuclear reactor and there were bits of shit everywhere. That would have been awesome. Um, okay, Razi.
I think my nostalgia touchstone for exactly this moment that we're sort of describing is Jeff Downes in Asia when he had the keyboards like above everybody across the back of the stage, and he'd be like running over to this side mini Moog while this tech was behind him repatching stuff on the other side. It was just a pile of gaudy displayed large fallible crumbling hardware units that were a high wire act of their own, a performance in physical space of their very own. So I'll try to grab a clip of that if anybody doesn't have that same moment in time sort of crystallized.
Yeah, good fun. So I don't know. There you go. There's a whole bunch of thoughts. And I was going to talk also throw in the concept, the idea of quality and longevity, if and maintainability. Do we want to touch that one with I will go first. It's funny that I've owned an Emax for 30. Emax turns 40 this year. Emaxes are turning fucking 40 this year. Holy shit. And I've owned ones for 36 years. I got my first Emax in 1990. Was it 91? 35 years. It's turning fucking 40. I've never had a problem with it. Although I did at university, it did this really weird thing. I don't know why it did this weird thing, but it's never done that. Would I take an Emax live? Fuck yeah, I'd take an Emax live. They've never broken. Fucking Depeche Mode, Faith No More, Skinny Puppy. How many DX7? Come on. Can you break a DX7? Yeah, the Emaxes always work. Emulators have always worked. Moogs are always, although the Mini always works. How many times have I turned my modular on and it doesn't work? Not once. Not fucking once. How many times have I turned my computer on and it didn't work or something was fucking with it? Well, Brett knows the answer to that one. Although now I have a new computer. Thank you, Brett. Yeah. And that's a really interesting question to me is that, I hear people say, oh, it's better. It's, works better and, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but does it though? Like, for Ice Planet 9000, I go out with an emulator 3 and a big controller keyboard. Yes, it's a pain in the dick. Yes, it's fucking heavy, but it's gonna fucking work. Emulator 4 has never not worked on me. The K2000 has never, not ever, 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 and I've had a fucking K2000 since 95, I think. Not once has it booted up going, oh, problem with update. Oh, it's never fucking done that. It's like, yeah, let's rock. So there's so much stuff going on. So yeah, as far as product quality and longevity goes, fuck yeah. Same with Jupiter 8s. They keep working. Prophet 5s. Yeah. Jupiter 8s, mate. But yes, I know it's a big, heavy fucking box, and I know it's a whole bunch of shit to cart around, and I know you have to take a mixer with you as well, and if anything's going to fuck up, it's going to be the mixer. But I don't know. Jekyll Switch had a K2000, and we beat the fuck out of that thing. Oh my God, we beat the fuck out of that thing. What's this video you just put up?
It's the Asia a good example of their stage rig with Jeff Downes's keyboards across the back up on an elevated platform under a mystical triangle.
What more do I have to say? So
no,
yeah,
no cape, but You get the
No
idea.
cape.
I mean, he might as well be wearing a cape. I think he has a Moog Liberation for the solos and stuff, so he does run out with a guitar.
Yeah. Here we go. We've got to that point. Yeah, they all work flawlessly. They work fucking flawlessly. And come on, guys. Oh my God. When we used to take fucking computers out on a tour, one night out of 5 nights, something's going to happen in front of a live fucking audience. And it's gonna be a big deal. So yeah, anyway, there you go. Blah blah blah. Ivan, tell me about your thoughts.
The one of the reasons apparently that we don't see Nick Rhodes out with the Jupiter 8 anymore is because he had multiple Jupiter 8s and an army of techs to keep those Jupiter 8s running. Because like crap was happening to him. And like that probably is mostly a symptom of just aging hardware and the fact that life on the road is actually hard. Which it really is one of the reasons why like I've got certain hardware here in the studio that will never travel because I can't trust that I can replace it. I can't trust that I can repair it. It just can't travel. Like, game over. Um, so I think there is a balancing act between hauling that stuff out into the wild and keeping that stuff up and running out in the wild. And yeah, no, the computer has taught me some seriously dramatic lessons on its own because it is good at being untrustworthy. Uh, I never go to practice these days without having booted the notebook first at home and made sure that nothing is complaining about updates. Because otherwise, I'm going to get to the studio where our internet connection is sloppy at best, and its first thing is going to be, hey, I need to do updates. It's going to take you 45 minutes before you can use me. Really, really, now's the time for that? Well, yes, because fucking Windows doesn't care, and as it turns out, neither does Ableton. And like having Ableton just like suddenly crap itself, because you powered on and it's time to practice. It's not the time for it to suddenly feel it needs to do an update. That needs to happen at home.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
those are
Oh, sorry, go
valuable
ahead.
lessons to learn.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct. So guys, Resi, we need to tell that link you sent. It's got to go down. That's porn, and it's being blocked in my browser. Going, this is porn. Don't
I
look
know
at
it's
it.
a little embarrassing when you put that on in your lecture and all of a sudden everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm probably the only guy who, the incognito, I only use that for looking at reverb.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you don't, there's all the gear that you've been drilling over. Oh, can we talk about gas
That's in your
sometimes?
history now, man. Somebody's going to see that after you die.
Yeah, I know, and they're going to judge me. Thank you for this porn. Porn, 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 porn. Why wasn't there a band called Australia? Every other continent, or New Zealand, every other continent got a fucking band name.
There's got to be an Oceania.
It's not the same thing.
No,
By the way,
I'm not saying it is. Don't
you're
worry.
gone. You're gone. Alex, it's Brett's birthday, and you haven't sung happy birthday yet. Resi, we're going to get to you after Alex sings happy birthday.
Okay.
Alex, turn your mic on.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
Look, we all had to do
Okay.
it.
We all had to. You all had to.
Yeah, past tense. Now
I'm
it's your
gonna
turn.
text.
Go.
Oh, oh, oh. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brett. Happy birthday to you.
That's fantastic.
God
for
damn,
bonus.
man, you got
That was
guts.
great, man.
That was
It was better than
beautiful.
Ivan. Can you sing that in German?
Good job.
What's how German happy birthday? What is it? Please sing us happy birthday.
It's a lazy translation, but I can
Come
do
on,
it.
go, do it.
Go. Zum Geburtstag viel Glück, zum Geburtstag viel Glück, zum Geburtstag viel Glück, lieber Brad, zum Geburtstag viel Glück.
You actually have to say that fast bit in the middle.
Yeah, the Geburtstag is the best part. It's up there with Goblet Stapler.
I screwed up because I think the lyrics go different, but I never sing it in German. I always sing it in English.
So
Cool. Very cool.
But in Australia, you don't go hip hip. No other country goes hip hip hooray, do they? That's an Australian thing.
I think it's in German too, but it's
They do,
hurrah
right?
instead of hooray.
Because in Australia, it's hip hip hooray.
Oh no, happy birthday. No, okay, they're not.
Yeah. Hip hip hooray. Hip hip hooray. Australians love that call and response. I don't know why. Oh wow, you can sing it in Arabic? Dope. Shukran. Dope. Razi, give me your mind-blowing shit.
I just wanted to make a little funny allusion to the catastrophic failure of synths, and maybe I can make this into an anecdote. But the catastrophe of your MacBook crashing as you reboot it. But I had this hardware situation for at least one show. My pair of Fender Bandmaster amplifiers that were attached to my guitar electrically were also plugged into the wall with a 2-prong adapter in the place. One of the venues was not wired to code, perhaps. And the other part that makes this an interesting story is I used to wear a damn headset mic. So the sweaty metal thing up against the sides of your head was also part of the circuit. So I was getting a really powerful connection to the fucking, basically I was touch my guitar and see Niagara Falls kind of effect. But I powered through it for a couple of seconds, and yeah, that was worse than when there's a problem with the computer codes, I guess is all I'm trying to say. It was significant hardware difficulties.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Thank you. I just want to exchange some fucking computer crashing nightmare stories. My favorite computer crashing nightmare stories, and it's not angelspit. There was a time where we played Scotland, I think, Edinburgh, I think, and the fucking computer dies right at the end. And we had Matt playing drums, Valerie on guitars, and it was Amelia and me, and we were just going at it. And then halfway through one of the songs, we noticed it got really punk rock, and we just kept going. And I was going, "Oh fuck, the computer's died," and I just eyeballed everyone, and we just went, "Let's fucking go," and that was a good moment. Because we were a group of competent musicians, and I think the audience figured it out too, and we just went, "No, we're going to use this." The worst crash I've ever seen in my life was IMX playing Chicago, and right before the encore, which was President, the computer crashed, and they all had this conversation on stage of what they were going to do next, and they said, "Oh, we're not doing it. We can't do it live. Good night." And I was mind blown. It's like, dude, you could have just said to 300 people in this room, "You are officially members of IMX, and we're going to do the computer has crashed, and we're going to do President." That would have been probably one of the greatest moments in their career. And for that audience, oh my God. But no, I've seen so many fuck ups, and I think there was another time where the computer crashed and it was just me and Amelia, and we kept going. We just went a cappella because the fucking thing died. We didn't care. But I've seen them die and the bands just go meltdown. Like KMFDM used to have 2 computers backstage. Predominantly that the show was live. But oh no, that wasn't me and Amelia. That was on tour some other time, and the lights were connected to it, so there was just blackness. So we went, "Fuck it, we're going." As in, we're going to keep going. We're going to make this work. KMFDM used to have 2 MacBooks behind the drummer and the drum tech, and they would go at the same time. So if something happened, they just flip over to the other one. It never went, or I don't think it ever went down. But yeah, I've seen so many people, man. I've been in shows where it's like it dies, band doesn't know what to do, or the band really works with it. There you go. So that's it. Does anybody else want to say something? We've got 17 minutes left, or we could share other horror stories of bands when computers break down. When computers break down. Um, yeah. Well, and that's the shoe sometimes can't go on because it's all, oh, everyone's hands goes up. All right, hit me, Ivan.
Yeah, so the last time that I saw Revco play live, which was their last show, they were still running their original vintage equipment, and their original vintage equipment had had enough. And so it just getting going was kind of it took a Herculean leap of faith and effort for them to, actually get the show started because, the equipment was just like, nah, I've had enough. And, it was enough so that they actually said something on stage about it because that was some terribly vintage equipment.
Fucking rock and roll. Brett, hurt my brain.
This ain't gonna be long, but I was just gonna say, especially if you're in your studio, have a spare recorder. Cell phones are great for this. The last time my computer crashed, I sampled the hell out of that shit. That was so awesome. Because like the whole DAW and everything, it took the entire song. It like slowed it down to like maybe a half a beat a minute. It was like just this noise, trudging noise wall. It was awesome. So just friendly piece of advice: keep a spare recorder for when it crashes and it works in your favor.
God, I love rock and roll. I miss a good car crash. I mean in music. I mean in music. Alex, hit me.
Um, the I once crashed my Octatrack for stupid reasons, which was a MIDI loop. Um, but I don't blame the machine. I don't know if other people have stories about stupid ways of gear crashing, but that's my.
My only stories about gear crashing are stupid, and I thank you. And that is the first time I've ever heard of an Octatrack going crunchy crunch. Isn't it funny? They are more reliable than fucking computers.
I'm pretty sure I've
Oh,
blocked all this out. I don't have any recollections of shit going down.
oh,
And I
dude.
know it has. I mean, clearly catastrophically, but I think I've
When I used to tour with LA Opera, always, 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 I would be down in front of the keyboard player because they had Performer. Is that Performer software? It's really it's this cheap software, but it's fucking great. And I would be down in front of them trying to get the fucking thing working, like often. Um, anyway, good fun in front of the kids. Good fun. Alex.
And if you're a musician wanting to bring your tracks on the stage, I think there's an Italian company which provides like a dedicated black backing track player, which doesn't cost much more than a computer, a cheap one, and it has like fancy things like you can have count-ins for certain people only and something like that. And I think the NPCs are also quite reliable because they have been updating the firmware over and over and over, and I think most of the bugs are squashed.
Brilliantness. Thank you. Find the link to that and we'll check it in the bloody Razi, my brain.
speaking of blocking things out, not 12 hours ago, I actually had one on a remote mix gig just last night. I connect with, MIDI over the internet to the mixer using control surfaces, and I watch the thing on a video loop feedback. So the only way that I can talk to people in the room is over the internet, and I connected and the mixer's not answering. No mixer. I'm like, oh, I can't even talk to people. I was preparing we've done a bunch of these shows, and this is the first one where I've had to just cancel the whole thing because no internet. And Yeah, when I finally got a person on site to turn the mixer on, that was the whole problem. Powered up, software interface is crashing. Restart, software interface is crashing, not showing up. You know, having the time to resolve these things is part of the solution, of course, and also just assuming that there's a way around it and that you will figure it out. So if you have to text someone or have somebody drive over, or having the alternate ways of dealing with the thing is super important. And for whatever happened, eventually I was able to get all the software up and running, make the internet connect to the thing, and talk to the people over the microphone and get sound check going, and it worked out. But yeah, there's these like high wire act moments with every piece of gear that are, honestly, for my money, giving yourself the time and experience and practice to troubleshoot that shit and make something work is what makes it actually a fun moment that I can remember as success, as opposed to just a catastrophe.
Yeah, that's rock and roll. Good fun, man. I vote we call it. This has been amazing, and I'm really grateful. Unless anybody else wants to throw in a last minute thought, or we could call it. Okay, Diana,
Check out the new tracks.
Fuck, Brett's got new tracks. Thank you, Brett. Okay, here are those new tracks. Go get those new tracks. Boom. Everyone, listen to Brett's new tracks. And this is important because the art of rock's all about making music, and Brett's made music. So let's celebrate this shit. This is the art of rock. Every Saturday we're here, but we're not here next Saturday because I got a roller derby gig. Yeah, another one. Fucking, they're so much fun. But you guys are gonna join here, Zooming it, and I'll be watching people fucking go crazy on a roller derby ring. It's 14 hours shit. And they've got a live band. And how that's going to work basically it's an aircraft hangar. I don't know how that's going to work, but here we go. And they've got a Behringer wing. And of course, some of the knobs don't work. And I'm going, how is this going to work? Oh, I could always get a touch service. Too hard. There, every Saturday, except maybe not next weekend. We are doing Art of Rock, and this is about making your music happen. It's brought to you by Angelspit's Patreon. If you want to join Angelspit's Patreon, it can be $3 a month or more. Otherwise, it's free. And a bunch of this stuff is there. Ice Planet 9000's new album, How to Bottle a Star, drops Monday. So the emails will be going out Monday. Patreon supporters get a free copy. And there's going to be a bloody, I should tell you this right now if I have this information in front of me. Do I have this information in front of me? Monday, the 6th. The listening party is Monday the 6th. Monday the 6th. I'm actually going to put this in the thing. Look at how amazing I am in my amazing abilities to be amazing. There it is, Monday the 6th. There's going to be a listening party on Bandcamp. We're going to listen to the album, talked about the album. It's going to be good fun. Remember, Wednesday night, deep dive into synthesizers with the amazing Vulture culture. You're going to love it. Just do it. Join up. That's where we hang out. Rezi, dude, thank you for your ever ongoing amazingness.
And thank you, and thank everyone on the panel and in the chat. I really, really love having everybody's time and attention focused on these topics.
And today we were joined by these incredible humans, and I am very, very, very grateful. Also, just letting you know, if you're not happy with the way America is going, because I don't really watch the news anymore, but Indivisible is a great way to exercise your constitutional and democratic rights to keep this great country amazing. And if you've got a problem with media, because it's officially addictive, join a 12-step program. I'm quite sincere. Join that 12-step program. Diana, let's get this raid going. And then we're going to disappear to fucking happy, bloody, 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 bloody land. Get some MTV TV. And reminder, go listen to Brett's new bloody remix. So let me know when that raid's done. Are we raiding just yet? Are we raiding just yet? Are we raided? We raided? Okay, fantastic.
There we go.
And if that is the case, then I will say farewell and see you in 2 weeks. Not next week. But I hope you guys end up. Stop the stream. You rock. Bye.
Bye.
And Carl will be bailing shortly because Carl's going to bail. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congrats, Leg.
Notes on next week, Saturday the 2nd. I don't know if I'll have an internet connection, so
Alright.
I may or may not be partying, but I'll at least do every effort to log on with cellular and kick off the meeting and stuff at the right time. Do whatever I can.
Sure, Alex. I saw you waving.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dude, have you seen that in this Asia thing? No, have you the headbands and they've got one of those Roland fucking synth guitars?
Headbands.
Look at the headbands. So rock. My God, look at that keyboard player's headband.
I just watched the whole concert just a couple months ago, so of course. Revisit that thing every 10, 15 years.
Oh, who's this?
I just think it's so weird that it's fucking Steve Howe on guitar in Asia. I always sort of forget that effect.
Steve Howe. Okay.
Yes's music is so not that.
Oh, that's the Yes guy.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the Break Off Yes band.
It's John Wetton, Steve Howe, Jeff Downs. It's a super group. And Carl Palmer on drums. I mean, they're all heavies.
Really?
Prague, 70s. Yeah. Super group. Good kitty.
Yes, he is.
Look at that guy. He's a
Say hi,
hellion.
Frank.
Does he have pure gray eyes or are they yellowish?
Another greenish.
Greenish, yeah.
Oh,
He's such a Zoolander. Like,
Suppose.
he really is. He's very photogenic. Like, I'll go, hey, Frank, I'm taking a photo. And he'll go, just
Blue steel.
instantly blue steel. Oh my God. Okay. That was good fun. Thank you for that. Once again, my mind has been expanded. My mind has been expanded once again.
Did anybody else go into the music store and play the intro fanfare from Heat of the Moment?
No. No, I did not.
It starts off the whole concert. I mean, the first strains of, yeah.
Well, you've got people who played Heat of the Moment, then you got people who played Jump.
Ah.
So yeah, I was playing Axel F because I'm a nerd. I'm gonna just skip 15 seconds.
Yep. All right, people. I'm going to call some family back. So,
Sweet. You got to go put a boat in Florida.
I mean, I have it there right now. That's going to. So I reversed my steps for breaking it or for prepping it to go out on the water. I was supposed to start the engine first, then turn on the water, then turn off the water, then turn off the engine.
Uh-oh.
And in my brain, I reversed that process, and in doing so, managed to hydrolock it. So
don't hydrolock your boat in Florida, man.
Well, that's why it went back to Florida. It's in Florida right now. That's that's where I have to take it for the garage.
Okay.
Is
it a serious condition? Is it an inboard engine or is it like?
Yeah, it's a jet.
Oh.
Yeah. So think like a jet ski, but as a pontoon boat. That's what it is. The Sea-Doo switch.
Right.
So new mistake. Fortunately, I didn't make that last year, but I didn't make it through the winter, surviving both ADD and having a boat. I mean, I guess it technically still boats. It just doesn't go anywhere. At least.
I mean, it does the floating on water part. That's most of what a boat has to do.
That's right. I mean, I can make it to the ocean.
Get enough people with paddles and you might still be in business.
Yeah.
What the business is.
I can make it to the ocean, just not back.
Right.
He was never seen again.
Go.
He died of a sunburn. Anyway.
The stream is still running on YouTube.
Hell yeah.